single dad CEO rescued a little girl from the hailstorm. She said, "My mom used to tell me about you. What if the child you saved today holds the key to your past?" The hailstorm hit downtown Chicago without warning. One moment, Marcus Kane was stepping out of his Tesla in the parking garage of Kane Industries headquarters, and the next, ice the size of golf balls was hammering the city streets. People scattered, screaming, covering their heads as windows shattered and car alarms wailed into the chaos. Marcus didn't think. He just ran. Through the cascade of ice and rain, he spotted her, a little girl, no more than 7 years old, frozen in terror in the middle of the crosswalk. Her pink backpack was already torn, her small hands covering her head uselessly against the assault from above. "Hold on," Marcus shouted, sprinting across the street. He threw his suit jacket over her, scooped her into his arms, and ran for the closest shelter, a coffee shop with a shattered front window, but an intact awning. He felt the sting of hail pelting his back and shoulders as he shielded her body with his own. They tumbled inside, breathless. The girl was trembling. Soaked through, her dark curls plastered her face. Marcus knelt down, checking her for injuries. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly, eyes wide with shock. Then, as she looked up at him, something shifted in her expression. Recognition. Impossible recognition. "You're Marcus Kane," she whispered. How could this child know him? Marcus blinked. Yes. How do you know my name?" The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them, a heartbreaking, beautiful smile that made his chest tighten. "My mom used to tell me about you, every night before bed." Her voice was small but certain. "She said you were the kindest person she ever knew. She said you saved her once too." The world seemed to stop spinning. Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. "Your mom? Who's your mom, sweetheart?" "Emma Rodriguez," the girl said. "But she died. Last year. Cancer." The name hit him like a freight train. Emma. Beautiful, brilliant Emma from his college days at Northwestern. The girl who'd sat next to him in Economics 101, who'd shared her lunch when he couldn't afford to eat, who believed in him when he was just a broke kid from the South Side with nothing but dreams and determination. Emma, who'd vanished from his life 20 years ago after graduation. Emma, who he'd tried to find a dozen times over the years. Emma, who he'd never stopped thinking about. Could this really be her daughter? "What's your name?" Marcus managed to ask, his voice rough with emotion. Sophia Rodriguez. "I'm 7 3/4. Marcus sat back against the wall of the coffee shop, his expensive dress shirt ruined, hail still pounding the streets outside. His hands were shaking. "Sophia, where were you going? Where's your family?" Sophia's lower lip trembled. "I live with my Tia Carmen now. She's at work. I was walking home from school, but I took the wrong bus and got lost, and then the storm came, and I was so scared." Hey, it's okay," Marcus said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "You're safe now. We'll find your aunt, I promise." As Sophia buried her face in his shoulder, Marcus noticed something, a small silver locket around her neck. With trembling fingers, he touched it gently. "May I?" he asked. Sophia nodded and opened the locket. Inside was a photograph, faded but unmistakable. A young Emma, radiant and smiling, standing next to Marcus himself at their college graduation. He was wearing his second-hand suit. She was in her cap and gown, and they were laughing about something long forgotten. He'd forgotten this photo existed. He'd forgotten how happy they'd been that day. "She kept this," he whispered. The truth came flooding back like a tidal wave. "She kept everything about you," Sophia said quietly. "She had a whole box. Pictures, newspaper articles about your company, that ribbon you won at the science fair. She said you were her best friend. She said you taught her what real kindness looked like." Marcus's throat burned with unshed tears. "Sophia, why didn't your mom ever reach out to me?" Sophia looked down at her hands. She said she was scared. "She got really sick right after I was born, and she didn't want to be a burden. She said you had big dreams, and she couldn't hold you back. She made Tia Carmen promise never to contact you." A burden? Marcus felt his heart breaking. She could never have been a burden. The hail was finally letting up, transitioning to hard rain. Other people in the coffee shop were starting to assess the damage, making phone calls, checking on loved ones. But Marcus only had eyes for this little girl, Emma's daughter, this beautiful piece of someone he cared about so deeply. "Sophia, did your mom ever tell you the story about the bridge?" Sophia's eyes lit up. "The Michigan Avenue Bridge. When you pulled her back from the railing, when she was thinking bad thoughts." Marcus nodded slowly. It had been finals week, sophomore year. He'd found Emma standing on the pedestrian walkway of the bridge, staring down at the Chicago River, tears streaming down her face. She'd been overwhelmed, drowning in pressure from her family, struggling to make ends meet, questioning everything. He'd talked to her for 3 hours that night, bought her coffee with money he didn't have, walked her home, checked on her every single day after that until he saw her smile return. Asterisk, he'd save her then, and she'd save him right back. Asterisk. Your mom saved me too, you know, Marcus said softly. I was angry back then. Angry at the world, at my circumstances, at everyone who had more than me. Your mom taught me that success without kindness means nothing. That money without compassion is just paper. Everything I built, everything I became, she's the reason I did it the right way. Sophia's hand slipped into his. She said you were going to change the world. Did you? Marcus looked at the small, brave girl who'd lost so much. I'm trying, Sophia, but I think maybe I've been changing it in the wrong direction. The truth was, he'd lost himself somewhere along the way. Marcus Kane was worth $800 million. He employed 4,000 people. His tech company had revolutionized supply chain logistics. Forbes had called him one of America's most innovative CEOs. But when was the last time he'd actually talked to another human being, really talked, the way he was talking to Sophia right now? When was the last time he'd walked through the South Side neighborhood where he grew up? When was the last time he'd done something just because it was kind, not because it was strategic? He'd become exactly what Emma had warned him about in their late-night college conversations. Successful but disconnected, wealthy but isolated, powerful but alone. His own daughter, Lily, barely knew him. After the divorce 3 years ago, she lived with her mother in Boston, and he saw her maybe once a month. She was 9 years old, and he was missing her childhood while building an empire. This little girl in his arms was showing him everything he'd lost. Sophia, Marcus said, I need to call your aunt. What's her number? 20 minutes later, Carmen Rodriguez burst into the coffee shop, drenched and frantic. She was a round woman with Emma's same warm eyes, and when she saw Sophia safe in Marcus's arms, she collapsed in relief. Thank God! Thank God! Thank God! She sobbed, clutching Sophia to her chest. Marcus stood awkwardly, suddenly feeling like an intruder on this reunion. But Carmen looked up at him, recognition dawning on her face. You're him, she breathed. You're Marcus Kane. Emma's Marcus. I'm so sorry about Emma, Marcus said, and the words felt pathetically inadequate. I didn't know. If I had known. She made me promise, Carmen said fiercely. She made me swear I wouldn't tell you about Sophia. She said you had your own life, your own family. She didn't want to complicate things. Complicate things? Marcus ran his hand through his wet hair. Carmen, Emma was one of the most important people in my life. I looked for her. For years I looked. If I had known she was sick, if I had known about Sophia. She was proud, Carmen said quietly. Too proud. And too sick, too fast. The medical bills, even with insurance, we lost everything. We lost the house, the savings, everything Emma had worked for. And then we lost her. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Where are you living now? He asked. Carmen hesitated. We have a small apartment in Englewood. It's not much, but it's what we can afford. I work 2 jobs. Stop, Marcus said gently. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to give you my personal number. Tomorrow, I want you to come to my office. Both of you. There are some things we need to discuss. Carmen looked suspicious, protective. Mr. Kane, we don't need charity. It's not charity, Marcus interrupted. Emma gave me something 20 years ago that I never properly thanked her for. She gave me hope. She gave me a reason to build something good instead of just something profitable. I owe her a debt I can never repay, but I can start by making sure her daughter has every opportunity Emma would have wanted for her. He knelt down to Sophia's level. Would that be okay with you, Sophia? If I kept my promise to your mom to be a kind person by helping take care of you? Sophia threw her arms around his neck. She said you would. She said if I ever met you, you'd be exactly like this. She was right about you. That night, Marcus sat in his penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, and for the first time in years, he cried. He cried for Emma, for the life she'd lost too soon. He cried for Sophia, who'd lost her mother. He cried for himself, for all the years he'd wasted building walls instead of bridges. And then he picked up his phone and called his daughter in Boston. Lily? Hi, honey. I know it's late. I wanted to hear your voice. And I wanted to ask you something. How would you feel about spending more time with Dad? Maybe moving back to Chicago? I know I haven't been the father you deserve, but I want to change that. I want to be the dad you tell stories about. 3 months later, everything was different. Marcus had restructured his entire life. He'd promoted his COO to CEO and stepped into a chairman role that gave him flexibility. He'd bought a house, not a showpiece, but a home, in a neighborhood with good schools and tree-lined streets. Lily had moved in with him full-time. She and Sophia had become instant best friends, the big sister Sophia never had, and the confidant Lily had been missing. Carmen had quit both her jobs. Marcus had set up a trust fund for Sophia's education and future, and hired Carmen as a director of the Emma Rodriguez Foundation, a new nonprofit dedicated to helping single mothers and children affected by cancer. But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he volunteered at a youth center in his old neighborhood, teaching coding and entrepreneurship to kids who reminded him of who he used to be. Every Saturday, he and the girls went somewhere new, museums, parks, community service projects. Every Sunday, they had dinner together, all for them, a makeshift family built on loss and love and second chances. He'd started a program at his company where executives had to spend 1 day a month working alongside entry-level employees. He'd tripled the parental leave policy. He'd shifted 15% of profits to charitable causes. His board thought he'd lost his mind. His shareholders worried about returns. But Marcus Kane slept better than he had in 20 years. 1 year after the hailstorm, Marcus stood at Emma's grave with Sophia. "Hi, Emma," he said softly, laying flowers on a headstone. "I'm sorry it took me so long to find you. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. But I promise you, I'm going to make sure Sophia has everything. Not just money, but love, opportunity, and someone who believes in her the way you believed in me." Sophia squeezed his hand. She'd started calling him Uncle Marcus, which somehow meant more to him than any title ever had. "Mom would be happy," Sophia said. "She told me before she died that angels work in mysterious ways. She said when I needed help the most, someone would appear. I think she sent you that day, Uncle Marcus. I think she sent the storm." Marcus smiled through the tears. "Maybe she did, sweetheart. Maybe she did." The truth is, we never know when a single act of kindness will echo through eternity. Marcus had run into that hailstorm thinking he was saving a child. Instead, he'd found a piece of himself he thought was lost forever. He'd found purpose beyond profit, meaning beyond success, and a family built not on blood, but on the legacy of a woman who taught him that the measure of a life isn't what you accumulate. It's who you lift up along the way. Emma Rodriguez had saved him twice. Once when they were young, when she'd shown him that poverty doesn't define character and struggle doesn't diminish worth. And once more years after her death, through her daughter's voice in a storm, reminding him that success without soul is just another kind of poverty. Today, the Kane Industries headquarters has a new centerpiece. In the lobby, there's a photograph. It's not of Marcus or any executive. It's of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown, smiling at the camera with hope in her eyes. Below it, a plaque reads, "Emma Rodriguez, 1982 to 2023. She taught us that kindness compounds, that compassion builds empires more lasting than money, and that the lives we touch are the only wealth that matters. Her legacy lives on in every person we help, every life we change, every child we remind that they are worthy of love and opportunity." Thousands of employees walk past it every day. And every single one knows the story of the girl from the hailstorm and the CEO who learned that you can't really save anyone until you first save yourself. Asterisk, because sometimes the rescue goes both ways. Sometimes the child you save is actually saving you. Asterisk. Marcus Kane learned that truth on a Tuesday afternoon in downtown Chicago, when ice fell from the sky and a little girl spoke her mother's words, and a man who had everything discovered he'd had nothing at all until that very moment. And every day since, he's been building a different kind of empire, One measured not in dollars, but in lives changed, opportunities created, and hope restored. Asterisk, that's what Emma taught him. That's what Sophia reminded him. Asterisk, that's the only success that ever really matters. The question is, what will you do with your storm?